in spite of the Catholic Church having millions and millions of innocent blood on their hands, when you go down the list, the Ku Klux Klan, the slave trade, Christopher Columbus, the genocide of the Native Americans, that's 100 million people right there. And then if you look at the Inquisition, since 300 AD for about 1,200 years, through the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, there's another 75 million. So we almost got 200 million innocent people that have been killed. Then you got Hitler, so that's 10 million people. Then you got Mussolini, the Russian czars, the Crusades, the Inquisitions, the Salem witch trials. You have lots of blood on Christianity's hands. Lots. But this is the defense of Catholic scientists. Okay, so on this Wikipedia article, you got Catholic Church and Science. They said scientific fields with important foundational contributions from Catholic scientists include, now, the very first one they say is Galileo. Galileo. You cannot put Galileo on that list. The Catholic Church arrested him for the last 10 years of his life, threatened torture, tried to thoroughly discredit him, wasted the last 10 years of his life. He could have built upon his knowledge. So, that makes me think this whole list is suspect. But perhaps Galileo called himself a Catholic or something like that. So we'll carry on. Galileo, acoustics, Mersenne, mineralogy, agricola, modern chemistry, Lavoisier, modern anatomy, Vesalius, stratigraphy, steno, bacteriology, Kircher and Pasteur, genetics, Mendel, analytical geometry, Descartes. They killed Descartes too. You cannot put people that you have killed on the list of your Catholic scientists. They killed Rene Descartes. Okay, heliocentric cosmology, Copernicus. That was another person. I mean, they hated Copernicanism. So no, he was a cleric, but he just got a decent burial 5 years ago, 2010. So Copernicus was given that poor man's burial in some unmarked grave, but eventually they brought him back up. The atomic theory, Boscovich, and the Big Bang theory on the origins of the universe, Lemaitre. And that's actually fantastical. So, Lemaitre, the Big Bang theory, I thought Big Bang goes against God, right? It's either evolution or Big Bang or God, right? God couldn't have made the Big Bang. God couldn't have made the evolution. God couldn't have created all this order in this world. It has to be one or the other. You believe in superstitious bullshit and the truth and reality based on reason and logic and what you can observe and experimentation. Those are the two choices that the church has, typically presented to us. You either believe in horse shit or you believe in reality. Which one are you going to believe? Me or your own lying eyes? Well, they actually have a mixed legacy when it comes to science, though, the Copernicus and the Galileo and the Descartes, fuck off. You cannot claim them as your own. You hated them at the time, and they'll say, well, we forgave Galileo in 92. Oh, really? So he's a free man now, right? Galileo is free to do as he pleases. Fuck that shit. It's a little too late. It's better than never, but he's dead, so it doesn't fucking matter except for your own reputation. But here's some good things that Catholicism has brought forth, okay? So Father Lemaitre is a Belgian priest, Georges Henry Joseph Eduard. He is a Belgian priest, astronomer, and professor of physics at the Catholic University of Leuven. He proposed the theory of the expansion of the universe, widely misattributed to Edwin Hubble. He was the first to derive what is known as Hubble's law and made the first estimation of what is now called the Hubble constant, which he published in 1927, 2 years before Hubble's article. Lemaitre also proposed what became known as the Big Bang theory of the origin of the universe, which he called his hypothesis of the primeval atom, or the cosmic egg. So the Big Bang theory, founded by a Catholic priest. This is incredible. Lemaitre, remember his name, Belgian priest Lemaitre, the one who came up with the Big Bang theory. Now, there was Louis Pasteur. Pasteurization is named after Louis Pasteur. Pasteurization was where they heat milk up to a certain temperature, killing all the microbacterial organisms, but still maintaining the property of milk. And that's what Louis Pasteur had did. So, I don't know, his Catholicism might be out, but he's an important person. So if it can be proved that he's Catholic, then perhaps, Catholicism has some redeeming figures in them. Here's a short little bio of Louis Pasteur, French chemist, microbiologist, renowned for his discoveries on the principle of vaccination, microbial fermentation, and pasteurization. He's remembered for his remarkable breakthroughs in the causes and preventions of diseases, and his discoveries have saved countless lives ever since. He reduced mortality from puerperal fever, created the first vaccines for rabies and anthrax. His medical discoveries provided direct support for the germ theory of disease. Discoveries provided direct support for the germ theory of disease and its application in clinical medicine. He is best known to the general public for his invention of the technique of treating milk and wine to stop bacterial contamination, a process now called pasteurization. He's regarded as one of the three main founders of bacteriology, along with Ferdinand Cohn and Robert Koch, and is popularly known as the father of microbiology. So, those are some fantastic discoveries, right? Pasteurization, the Big Bang Theory. I've even heard that the Pope has defended the Big Bang Theory. The Pope also said that Adam and Eve is a bullshit story. It's a lie. Now, here's the last one I'm going to talk about, Gregor Mendel. He's a German-speaking Moravian scientist, Augustinian friar who gained posthumous fame as the founder of the modern science of genetics. Though farmers have known for centuries that the crossbreeding of animals and plants could favor certain desirable traits, Mendel's pea plant experiments conducted between 1856 and 1863 established many of the rules of heredity, now referred to as the laws of Mendelian inheritance. So Mendel worked with 7 characteristics of pea plants: plant height, pod shape, color, seed shape, color, flower position, and color. With seed color showed that when a yellow pea and a green pea were bred together, their offspring plant was always yellow. However, in the next generation of plants, the green peas reappeared at a ratio of 1:3. To explain this phenomenon, Mendel coined the terms recessive and dominant in reference to certain traits. In the preceding example, green peas are recessive, yellow peas are dominant. He published his work in 1866, demonstrating the actions of invisible factors, now called genes, providing for visible traits in predictable ways. Brown eyes are... So Pope Francis, he said some interesting things about Adam and Eve and hell. He says, more specifically, he stated that through humility, introspection, and prayer, we've acquired a new sense of old dogmas. The church no longer believes in a literal hell where people suffer. That is incompatible with God's infinite love. God is not a judge but a friend and lover of humanity. God doesn't look to punish but to hug. Just like Adam and Eve, hell is a literary resource. Hell is just a metaphor for an alien soul, which, like every other soul, are linked to God with love. So Pope John Paul once said that hell is the absence of God. The absence of God is hell. And the Vatican officials also said that these allegations about Pope Francis are not only untrue, but that he coincides with Pope John Paul's definition of hell. So he said it. He said these things. He says that hell's bullshit, Adam and Eve is bullshit. They are just literary resources. So Pope Francis continues. Not only did he say hell is merely a metaphor for the isolated soul, which, like all souls, ultimately will be united in love with God. So hell is bullshit. There is no such thing as hell, Adam and Eve. That is just a literary resource. He also said that all religions are true. All religions, everybody of all religions are going to get into heaven, because they are true in the hearts of those who believe in them. What other kind of truth is there? In the past, the church has been harsh on those it deemed morally wrong or sinful. Today, we no longer judge. Ye without sin, cast the first stone. He's actually being a Christian. In the past, the church has been harsh on those that deemed morally wrong or sinful. Today, we no longer judge. Like a loving father, we never condemn our children. Our church is big enough for heterosexuals and homosexuals, for the pro-life and the pro-choice, for conservatives and liberal. Even communists are welcome and have joined us. We all love and worship the same God. In a way, Muslims, Allah, this is fantastic. He is really threading the line here. I could say all religion is bullshit, but when he kind of points it out, this is some sensible theology. This is sensible, that God is love. That let's not believe the crazy, insane stories, just because it's written in the Bible. It's not all 100% true. He's also working on the Third Vatican Council to finally finish the work of the Second Vatican Council. So they're trying to modernize. They're trying to, they got rid of the list of prohibited books. They had a list of prohibited books, which included Thomas Hobbes and, I want to say Spinoza and Voltaire, Diderot. Basically the smartest fucking thinkers in the world. If you're going to start your intellectual inquiry, start with the list of prohibited books. Why did they not want you to read these books? Because it made you question the world and understand the world for yourself. And quote by Pope Francis, God is changing and evolving as we are, for God lives in us and in our hearts. When we spread love and kindness in the world, we touch our own divinity and recognize it. The Bible is a beautiful, holy book, but like all great and ancient works, some passages are outdated. Some even call for intolerance or judgment. The time has come to see these verses as later interpolations, contrary to the message of love or truth, which otherwise radiates through Scripture. In accordance with our new beginning, with our new understanding, we will begin to ordain women as cardinals, bishops, and priests. In the future, it's my hope that we will have a woman pope one day. Let no door be closed to women that is open to men. Oh my God. Women can be priests, women can be popes, women can be bishops. Has this man lost his mind? The fucking, traditional Catholics are probably shitting a brick, right? There's going to be schisms all over the place. So that's pretty fantastic. Pope has some interesting perspectives on the Big Bang Theory and evolution. In his address to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, the Pope cautioned against the image of God, the Creator, as a magician with a magic wand, arguing that belief in both theories around the beginnings of the universe and the birth of humankind are consistent with the Catholic faith. So how the world was created is how God intended it. God created the Big Bang. God created evolution. The Big Bang, which is today posited as the origin of the world, does not contradict the divine act of creation. Rather, it requires it, he stated. Similarly, he argued evolution of nature is not inconsistent with the notion of creation because evolution presupposes the creation of beings which evolve. Yet, despite further murmurings that Pope Francis was beginning yet another revolution in Catholic doctrine, it must be pointed out the Pope's declaration on either with some traditions. The Big Bang Theory was originally hypothesized in 1927 by a Jesuit priest and physicist, Georges Lemaitre. So Lemaitre, a Catholic priest, had actually hypothesized that the Big Bang Theory is where all this came from, and is based on the central proposition that the universe is continually expanding. As a proposition, the universe was originally contained within a single point in a highly intense state of heat and density. As the universe began to expand, it cooled, allowing the formation of subatomic particles, which began a series of physical cosmological processes, which led eventually to the known universe. So I guess they're saying the universe is expanding, and if it's expanding, then that means if you were to go backwards, it would eventually be like a ball of nothing, right? So just like all the heretics that the Catholic Church had murdered like 500 years ago, now, they're saying, well, and Stephen Hawking concluded in his autobiography, one would have to appeal to religion in the hand of God to determine how the universe started off, because Stephen Hawking could not answer if there was a beginning point. Did the universe begin? If so, what was behind it? And if there was no beginning, how can you make something out of nothing? You can't make something out of nothing. Here's a bunch of ingredients. Now go, here's a bunch of no ingredients. Here's no ingredients. Go bake a cake. You can't bake a cake with no ingredients. Turning to Pope Francis's comments on evolution, Catholic teaching has long professed the likelihood of human evolution, albeit with the proviso that this takes place under the guidance of the Creator, and that the special creation of the human soul is performed directly by God. Pope Pius XII said something about something, right? So this isn't really breaking away with all the traditions, a lot of the traditions, but not all of them. And Francis is revolutionary. He believes that the church needs to go out to the streets in order to, get their flock back, instead of just staying in their ivory towers. Here's what Pope Francis said about atheists. The Lord has redeemed all of us with the blood of Christ. All of us, not just Catholics, everyone. Father, the atheist, even the atheist, everyone in this blood makes us children of God of the first class. We are created children in the likeness of God, and the blood of Christ has redeemed us all, and we have a duty to do good, and this commandment for everyone to do good, I think, is a beautiful path towards peace. If we each doing our own part do good to others, if we meet there doing good, and we go slowly, gently, little by little, we will make that culture of encounter that so much. We'll make that culture of encounter that so much. We must meet one another doing good. But I don't believe, Father, I'm an atheist. But do good, and we will meet one another there. So I guess in heaven or in a good place or a good society. So essentially, do good. Do good. You know, at any point in time, people can be evil or good. Go out and do good. Do good things. And just keep doing good things. And if there's a God, then he should be fucking happy with that. And if he isn't, well, fuck that. I mean, I choose good not because of any fear of death, but I choose good for goodness sake. Because I kind of believe in sort of the karma thing. You go around hurting people, eventually that will catch up to you. So you go around being good, doing good. And that's how I want my legacy. That's how I want people to know me as, a person who was a good man with a good heart. And I choose that because I believe in goodness. So logically, I just believe that way. Somebody could pick evil. They could. But I think that's a weak person. Strong people pick goodness. Weak people pick evil. Even then, everyone, the Pope answered, according to Vatican Radio, we all have the duty to do good. Just do good and we'll find a meeting point. We'll find a meeting point. We will get there. We will get to the promised land. There's atheists are loving him. I'm an atheist and do not believe, but I love this new Pope. Popes are put on a pedestal and seem untouchable. This Pope from the get-go has been a people person. You can almost feel the love radiating from him. So from one human to another, he shows such compassion and humility. Love him. Sarah from England, UK. I'm an atheist, but I believe he is a great example of how religious folks ought to be. Or as an atheist, not speaking for all of them, I'm a huge fan of this Pope. I think people need to find their own reason to be good to others. For some, it is God. Others find that they want to be good for other reasons. I'm just glad that the big C found a leader willing to try his best to not just preach to the crowd, but try to show them how. On the other hand, some people use God as their excuse to be a dick, so I'm not sure. Strom says, left the church many years ago, don't believe in God, mainly due to the Catholics and Southern Baptists was raised around. This Pope embodies the teachings of the church I actually liked. He's pro-something. He takes care of the less fortunate. Wonder what our nation would be like if all the Catholics and Baptists followed his lead and voted for people who cared about the poor. Go ahead, Pope, show the way. Iron Hand 43, I don't even believe in God, but this guy as a human being just rocks. He set a new standard for future popes to follow. I'm agnostic, but this guy has truly awed me with his actions. So unlike other popes in my lifetime, even John Paul II, who just seemed okay to me. I was raised Catholic, but now I'm an atheist, but I'm growing to respect this man more and more. He's actually following Christ's teaching. Imagine that. Alex D. So, you know, a good person is good regardless of religion. I do believe this. Pope Francis has expressed compassion for gays, de-emphasized social issues, and made it temporarily easier for women to repent for having an abortion. But Francis has carefully avoided challenging or altering the Church's fundamental doctrines on contraception, abortion, and gay marriage. So that's true, right? He's still Catholic. But he is saying, look, there's poverty and war and death, and why are we so focused on whether or not men want to have sex with each other? And we can do better than this. So Pope Francis' recent encyclical on the care of the earth, which was widely taken to be a kind of environmental manifesto, combines authoritative church teachings with expressions of personal opinion in certain respects. Something against modernity, incoherent. I don't know. He will draw people back to the church. This is totally true. I think, let's see, there was one other thing that I want to mention. Global warming. He says, hey, Francis says that the issue that atheists need to worry about is following their conscience. Sin happens when you don't follow your conscience. Your conscience, your internal monologue to differentiate between what is good and what is bad, your conscience. And so essentially he says as long as you're following your conscience and you do good, you will get to the same place. So that sounds like he's saying we're all going to get to heaven if we do good. Honor good. my God, that's amazing. I knew a guy, a Baptist, Dean Dressel, who said that it doesn't matter what he did. If he was an evil piece of shit and murdered and raped and pillaged, as long as he believed in God, he was going to go to heaven. That's dangerous. That is so fucking dangerous. As long as he believes in God, he could be as evil and wicked as he wants. No wonder there's Christopher Columbus. So Pope Francis had talked about that there is the right of the environment. So environment has a right? It's got a right to exist. He also talked about environmental deregulation on a selfless and boundless thirst for power and material prosperity that causes untold suffering for the poor who are cast off by society. But the environment was hardly Francis's only focus. In a wide-ranging speech, he urged action on drug trafficking, armed conflict, terrorism, education, inequality, and corruption, reminding the UN General Assembly that solemn commitments without follow-through could ultimately do more harm than good. Don't just promise that you're going to do shit. There needs to be a follow-through. So that's environmental protections include an absolute respect for life in all its stages and dimensions. So he's throwing in abortion, right? Abortion is also with the environment. But it must be stated that a true right of the environment does exist. Any harm done Francis says that any harm done to the environment, therefore, is done to humanity. He continued, human beings, he said, are not authorized to abuse it, much less to destroy it. You can mine coal. You can do the things that you need to do without destroying the environment. You can protect the environment while also, getting the resources that you need. In fact, that's what you should do, right? You should have not just reclamation projects, but what, you're just making a big-ass mess? I'm just going to fucking make a big-ass mess, pollute everybody's streams and waters, and put pollution out into the clouds. So he says that there's a right to an environment. So in terms of, I don't know if he said anything about global warming, but he did say that we need to protect the environment, which would mean less carbon emissions and, a better steward for trees and the forest and nature. So he's a Pope Francis kissed that guy that had all those boils on his face. And that's I don't know. I mean, I couldn't have done that. I would be afraid that I would catch whatever the guy had. But apparently, the Pope doesn't have it, and maybe he knew about, better science than me. I think he's like a huge professor or expert when it comes to it. I'm pretty sure he said something about global warming. But he's done this, he's gone up to the Palestinian wall and put his hand on the wall. And he's, blessed people and kissed people and, basically just been a good force for humanity. It's a public relations thing. Of course it is. But this is good. This is a welcome breath of fresh air. What does he have to, dog in a fight? What does he doesn't have to say any of this. He could just say, Catholics, keep hating gays, keep on being, anti-abortion and keep doing your thing. But he's not. He's saying, look, there's bigger issues here and we need to get, So in Christmas, actually like 2 days ago, he says he wanted to apologize for the scandals that were in the Vatican. And that's it. He just apologized for the scandals. But that's a good first step, Does, Trump fucking apologize for any goddamn thing he ever does? He didn't say which scandals he meant. People from the U.S., other parts of the world might wonder, since there have been more than a few. A former Vatican official who came out as openly gay, a former papal envoy accused of sexual abuse who died under what some see as mysterious circumstances before he could be put on trial, and so on. So, VatiLeaks 2.0 is giving him some trouble. Now, I've heard some insane allegations, and they've leveled it at him. I don't know if it's the church themselves, but that chomos, we need to get rid of those chomos. The Catholic Church, that's fucked up. Louis C.K. says actually the church was all about chomos, and so having their chomo problem is a big problem. I found the global warming thing that he had mentioned. So, the Vatican has had its troubles, its share of issues. It's, murdered, 200 fucking million people throughout the years. So, yeah, of course they have a lot of fucking blood on their hands. So this actually seems the next logical step. I don't know why it took so long. So Pope Benedict should be given some credit for stepping down. He didn't have to resign. He could have been Pope for the end of his life. So the encyclical says that we all need to protect the earth, that the 192-page letter is the highest level teaching document a Pope can issue. But he says, human activities is why we have global warming. We have come to see ourselves as her lords and masters, entitled to plunder her at will. The violence present in our hearts, wounded by sin, is also reflected in the symptoms of sickness evident in the soil, in the water, in the air, and in all forms of life. That's Pope Francis, ladies and gentlemen.